Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today. Because if you haven't noticed already, I'm playing the Gen 1 Pokemon PC ports from Bryantthaboi, Blue, Yellow, and Red, and I am using the Voxel mod, but I am not playing it in third-person mode. I am playing it in first-person mode. As of today, you're going to be able to play all three Pokemon games in a first-person perspective. You can use mouse and keyboard if you so want to, or you can use a standard dual analog stick controller. And to say that people were talking about wanting first-person would be an understatement. Basically, every video I did when the actual Voxel mod first showed up, people were saying they want it in both actual first-person mode as well as in VR, and both of those are here today, but I'm just showing you the first-person view because VR never seems to do good on the channel. And honestly, the fact that this thing is under a month old as an entire project and has gone this far, gotten this good, and had so many different incredible mods out there, it's an understatement to say this thing has absolutely taken on a life of its own. And you'll see here in the newest builds with the Voxel mod, you're going to be able to get back sprites as well, so your Pokemon is not going to be facing the camera as it battles somebody else. Before we get much further involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But it is still incredible to me to think that I was just starting to talk about this maybe 2.5 weeks ago at this point in time, and Bryantthaboi had been working on it maybe for a week before that. Now, obviously, it was worked on well before that, but that's when the first public release went out. You guys were stoked about the fact that Yellow had actually been ported over just recently, and now with first-person mode, this really feels like something that Nintendo could have made if they realized this is what fans wanted, and they weren't allergic to giving fans things they want for money. Honestly, there's been a lot of comments talking about why doesn't Nintendo just do stuff like this, and I have absolutely no idea. This would definitely sell, people would be stoked, and they definitely have the internal development talent to be able to pull something like this off. But for basically the entirety of Nintendo's existence, fans do what Nintendo don't, so we're just going to have to deal with the fact that we have it and we don't actually have to give Nintendo any sort of cash for it. And even if Nintendo won't make stuff like this, fans are going to, but do be aware that if you want to play this one, you can't bring a completely rotten potato to the party, because this is on basically every platform, including phones, and a lot of people have talked about that the Voxel mod won't run full speed on their phone. This definitely requires a decent amount of computing power, because it really is just basically doing the math on where every single Voxel should be, because obviously Pokemon Blue, Yellow, and Red were originally 2D 8-bit games on the Game Boy, and this is something now that's completely indistinguishable in all the best ways possible from the actual source material. Think about when you had a Game Boy back in the day, if you had one, or when you emulated the game and you played one of these titles. It was 8-bit, it was 2D, there was barely any color whatsoever, but it really was a fun experience. And this is exactly the same game. There is no difference in content here. It is still the Gen 1 Pokemon stuff that you played on Game Boy, except now in pure 3D. Kind of feels a little bit like 3D Dot Game Heroes in its overall composition, and definitely in its genre, kind of being one of those RPG style games. But this just definitely works so well, and that new water effect and the back sprites are definitely looking absolutely impressive. And there's a lot of other people working on other mods to replace the sprites for something even more modern. So I'm sure in the next week, month, half a year, even to year, you're going to see this thing just go even further. I can't imagine what else they could possibly add to it, different modders and Bryantthaboi, but I'm sure we're going to find out shortly. But you let me comment down below and you tell me, have you been playing with the Voxel mod so far? And if you have been, have you gotten into first person mode? Just be aware that it is an option in the menu when you first start the game and you're in the options menu. By default, it'll not allow for first person. This is still definitely experimental. And even though I didn't really have any issues with it whatsoever, it is marked as such. Just keep that in mind. But seeing the world of Gen 1 Pokemon in first person, absolutely just a vibe. And again, if you have a PC VR headset, you're going to be able to play in VR as well. Now, I don't know for me personally if that's something that I would do an entire playthrough of, just because I don't have a ton of time, but I'm sure people out there are going to be doing it. But the first person is good enough for me, and with all these nice lines on all the voxels, all these rich colors, looks absolutely outstanding on my LG C4 OLED TV. So if you do have an OLED panel, I can't recommend this one enough. It absolutely looks incredible, especially with all the thick black outlines on the sprites. Let's do a soundtrack sample because the audio quality has improved in my opinion since the recent build, and I'll be right back with a bit more. Now, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the last time I talked about the audio, it's definitely been adjusted and some of the balance has been improved. So you'll see here as we come into the game, you use the key to get into third person mode and then you enter into first person and suddenly the entire world of Pokemon is in the first person perspective. And that's definitely something that I think works super well outside of a few areas like the actual interior. Sometimes where the camera is facing when you first get from one room to the other can have a little bit of a spatial orientation issue. All you need to do is move or turn the camera and you immediately know where you are. But if you do notice that, just be aware that that's sometimes just how it works. And as you go from building to exterior and vice versa, sometimes you will see that 2D aspect for maybe half a second or so until it pops directly into the first person mode again. And that is something that I really don't mind whatsoever. And you will see I'm mixing and matching both actual widescreen as well as 4x3 here. You can basically drag and drop the window to whatever aspect you want. You can go ultra wide, you can go 16:9, you could go 4x3 or as close as the Game Boy screen got to that, because I don't believe it was perfect 4x3, and you can really make your own kind of experience. And that really is something that I love about this project and Bryantthaboi's PC porting of Pokemon over to the PC. You can really craft your own experience. You can decide exactly what it is you want. If all you want is widescreen 2D, original 8-bit style graphics in black and white or with a little bit of color, you can absolutely do that. If you want something like this in widescreen and then you play around with the first person or third person voxel mods, that is there as well. And if you want to go crazy, obviously you have VR. It really allows you kind of a smorgasbord and menu of different items that you can kind of mix and match. And again, Bryantthaboi has asked me to send people over to their Discord, so the link is in the description below. There is an entire page there with all of the different mods that are currently in development you can install. And I will have shortly a video showing you exactly how to do each and every one of these steps, because I know some people are getting slightly tripped up. Or maybe I'll show that one first and this one second. I kind of make these in order and then decide what I'm going to show them based upon the overall schedule. But don't forget, you always need a Bort in your game, no matter what it is you're playing. It's the most popular name for both boys and girls in North America, basically now for 69 years running. All jokes aside, I'm going to keep doing it because you guys still find it funny. But as we kind of navigate around the world a little bit more, the depth in the voxels really does work, especially when you're up against an object like you see in the background. You can see slight depth to the pixels, and when you're going through the hedges here, this is about as close to pure 3D as you're going to get, because yes, voxels are pixels that have 3D volume to them, but they're not polygons in the same way you think of traditional 3D. It is a really interesting thing. Minecraft uses it, 3D.Game Heroes played with that, something like No Man's Sky used it to really great effect in deforming the earth just like Minecraft did. So this is definitely a situation where it works for the genre, at least in my opinion. But again, you tell me down below, do you prefer the 2D or the 3D? I would be curious. And if you do like the 3D more, are we talking third person or first person? In areas like this in the forest maze, I think it really does lend itself to being an excellent way to view the game, and it really just gives the game so much more charm in my opinion. Let's do one more soundtrack sample again. Start thinking about the audio balancing here and the fact that it sounds slightly better, at least to my ears, and leave me a comment after the sample telling me what it is you think. So yeah, somehow in under a month, the Pokemon games on Game Boy, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow all got ported to PC. They went from being 8-bit 2D to 3D voxels, and then it went from first person and even VR from there. And that is absolutely just a speedrun of bringing stuff like this over to the PC. And I know you guys want to see a lot more Pokemon PC ports, some of the Game Boy Advance stuff. I have absolutely no idea if that's ever going to happen or is going to be in development or not, but clearly this project is proof that there is absolute hunger out there for stuff like these PC ports of Pokemon games, especially with voxels, especially in 3D. And it's just such a fun time and so fun to check out. So again, if you want to play this one, the links are in the description below to the GitHub page for the PC ports, as well as Bryantthaboi's Discord server where you can find the mods. But short of that, we're done. I'm going to keep traversing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.